Okay, how's it going? I'm going to discuss abortion, all right? A really fun, simple topic. um, I watched a documentary called Lake of Fire. It's, excuse me, it's a documentary about abortion. It covers some of the different sides of it. Uh, a quick review of that documentary, I think is a bit too long. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes or 30 something minutes, something like that. It's in black and white. I don't think that choice made sense for that documentary. It's if it's in modern times, like color gives you detail. I think color's been used well in movies like The Wizard of Oz, Memento. Um, I don't know, Schindler's List. Like it was an interesting choice. Old movies are shot like I enjoy them. If they're in black and white, that's fine. The General, Buster Keaton movies, Charlie Chaplin, a lot of early Alfred Hitchcock movies, heaps of movies, Casablanca, but they were shot with black and white in mind. I think this was not shot in any different way. It's just a bizarre stylistic choice that I don't think was necessary. Its color's better, man. I don't know what they were thinking. Um, it's pretty good at just letting people speak. But it's mostly interviews. I would have liked some more facts, statistics. It has a few intelligent people that are trying to be a bit more broad and cover both sides and break down what the debate's about and what's going on. But a lot of it is also just these religious zealots or other people that are on the other side that, again, might be a bit more simple in the way they explain their point of view. I want more intelligent debate, but at a higher level. But anyway, so one thing I've got to point out, I actually feel like I'm kind of on the pro-life side, but the problem is like you can't assume that if someone's pro-life that other things. So I think people do this all the time, but it is interesting that there are a lot of really strong religious people or very religious people that really are pro-life to almost an extreme extent to the point that they become really violent. I'll get into that later, but it's an interesting phenomenon that can happen. Let's say there's a test and there's a multiple choice question. You can have choices A, B, C, D, or whatever. Now, I might pick C for some reason. Someone else might pick C as well. It doesn't mean that we have the same reasoning. They might have just guessed. They might have got it straight away using some shortcut I didn't know about. There's the question of is it correct or not. We don't know how we did it, what process was used. And that's the thing. I feel like on a lot of issues, I actually seem to fit on the right or on the conservative side, but not necessarily for the same reasons. And for example, I think religion's stupid. I think it has nothing to say about anything. Like whatever your personal life is, if you want to be religious, fine. But it's not a reason for anything. It's not justification. You've got to actually have reasons for things. Talk about the actual logic involved. But it's actually funny because the other side uses arguments that are actually very similar. Like they'll say, but it's legal. Abortion is legal. It's like that does not justify it. That's not a reason for saying that it's right. Um, just like if it says in the Bible this or that, that doesn't mean you have to go with that. That's not a proper justification. We may as well talk about some of the violence that occurred, the physicians that have been murdered and stuff. I mean, it's terrible. It's horrifying, but you need to you got to put it in context and understand they even if these people are really extremely religious, they believe that this abortion is really evil. And I don't completely disagree. I find abortion quite disturbing, but I'll get more into that later. That doesn't justify what they're doing. I don't think that's the right way to go about it. You need to challenge the laws and stuff. And of all the people to target, the physicians, the doctors are just sort of doing their job. If there's a market for it, if people want it, they're doing it. Some doctors might be morally against it. There may be some choice involved, and violence just doesn't seem like the right way to go. But having said that, it's funny because a lot of the other people just say, it's just crazy violence. Like, I mean, you are killing babies. Abortion is an act of violence, depending on how you look at it. It doesn't just happen, like, you don't just click your fingers. Um, it's kind of funny. Like, if you changed abortion to these clinics where kids were being killed, or some other thing that was obviously morally wrong, then I think most people would feel they were completely justified in using violence, in killing physicians that were carrying out the killing of children or something, for example. So you got to look like it's not. It really is a war going both ways, and it is tricky. Like again, I wouldn't say it's mainly the doctor's fault. There's the if it's legal, it's legal, and then you need to fight the law if you disagree with what the law is. Like if it's legal to have abortions. On the other hand, if there's all these women actively seeking abortions, then you could say, well, it's their fault. They're killing unborn babies. You can't just pin it on the physicians. But having said that, if you view abortion as a really evil, really bad thing, which some people do, and again, I kind of agree, but just not for any religious reason. I just think it's messed up. Why is it okay to kill an unborn baby? I'll go into more detail later. Then yeah, then to some degree the blame has to go somewhere. And again, but I don't think it's the right way to go about it. And I think it is also an ugly thing where you've got certain people who didn't do anything violent directly, but they're inciting violence. I think that's terrible. I think actually a thing you notice with religion is this tendency. There's a quote in this one of the Star Wars prequels, Revenge of the Sith. Only the Sith deal in absolutes, which is hilarious because Obi-Wan's a Jedi and he says it, and it's such an absolute statement. I find that funny, but religion does seem to make people deal in these absolutes. Either you're with us or you're against us. One of the guys in this movie said things like, if you don't, like anyone who blasphemes should be killed. That's it. You say, I'd be dead because I say Jesus Christ all the time. If you say anything, if you say God damn it, that's it. Execution as far as he's concerned. It's, you kind of lose common sense, I think. So anyway, yeah, I feel I'm in an awkward position. I tend to, I feel like I'm pro-life. I don't like the concept of abortion for multiple reasons, but it's got nothing to do with religion. Just going back to that multiple choice example, I think sometimes it's funny. You can actually have like a question and the obvious answer might be C, right? But people who are smarter might be able to see that, wait, this is trickier than that. You have to take that into account, and they get an answer of A. But people who are even smarter than that they'll see that thing, but then they'll see even further, realize, no, there's more to it even than that, and actually the answer is C, but not for the obvious reason. It's more sophisticated. It'd be good if I could find an example. I swear there are examples of it. It even reminds me of like playing scissors, paper, rock and trying to keep ahead of your opponent. Oh, they're going to play rock, so I have to play paper. Oh, but wait, they know I'm going to play, they know that. They know I'm going to play paper, so they'll play scissors, so I have to play rock. Oh, but they know that, so they're going to play paper, so I better play scissors. And it goes on and on. Or it's like in The Princess Bride, I think it's Wallace Shawn, or Shawn Wallace. Again, his name is confusing. He's the one that keeps saying inconceivable. And he says, which one is drugged? Well, if you drugged that one, if you poisoned that one, then I don't know. He discusses it. He goes back and forth. Now, it's not quite exactly the same, but I think abortion is a thing that you can kind of go back and forth once you start thinking about more details. Yeah, anyway. So I might discuss some of the other side of it, but I'm very skeptical. They say they're pro-choice, right? Now, I don't understand it. Like, you hear sayings like, my body, my choice. And I don't understand it because they chose to have unprotected sex. They got pregnant. No one discusses that part. It's like, oh, you just magically got pregnant, and it's your choice whether to have an abortion or not. The other thing, the technicality, it's not your body. It's inside your body. It's a separate, like, developing embryo, fetus, baby, whatever you want to call it. An unborn baby, and it's living. As soon as it's conceived, it's really funny because a lot of people, they're trying to figure out, where do you draw the line? When does the baby become human and that sort of thing. And what I see, the picture I see, if you just zoom back, you see this woman, she's not pregnant, then boom, there's this very clear point in time where she has unprotected sex, or however, she gets pregnant, the egg is fertilized, and then pregnant. And people are trying to find this line, like where's a good point to draw a line? And there's this big not pregnant. And it's like, as soon as she's pregnant, at that instant, it's on its way. And if she doesn't do anything fancy, she's going to have a baby. She's pregnant. And only by going out of your way to conduct an abortion can you kill the baby. And all this time people are trying to say, well, where do you draw the line? I feel like the line is, that's why I think the line should be at conception. The way I see it, unless a woman is raped, right, which is awful, I can't imagine an awful crime, right? Then I can see there's some amount of, like how awful would that be if you had to have the baby? You're pregnant, you didn't have a choice. So for 9 months, you have to go through all the hassle, all the whatever it is like to be pregnant, and then give birth to a baby. This baby may look like or remind you, I mean, the whole pregnancy and birth is going to remind you of how you got pregnant. You're going to have to explain it to the baby at some point. Um, it's just an awful, like, and then you know that this baby's father raped you and is a rapist and may or may not be alive or in jail. Is the father going to have rights to see? Like, it's messed up. I think it's completely fair enough. And I've heard some religious people say things like, a woman can't get pregnant unless she wanted to, that's so stupid and ignorant. Um, I don't think that's true at all. If she's raped, as long as this sperm cell gets in the uterus or wherever, gets to where one of the egg cells is, as soon as they connect, that's it, pregnant. There might be a little bit more to it than that, but it's not, you don't have to be in the mood for it. So to me, and in other circumstances, if it's still coerced, I mean, it's still rape basically. But my mum mentioned maybe in the past there used to be marriages and it was just kind of the guy could have sex whenever he felt like it. To me, that's basically rape, though. So any rape or anything like it, I think it's fair enough maybe to have an abortion and to place the blame for it on the rapist. The rapist can pay for it and can face the consequences of what I think it is a bit of a crime, an abortion, to kill an unborn baby. But otherwise, like, it's your body, it's your choice, but you chose to have unprotected sex. Use a condom. Every single time these women or other people, whoever it was, mostly women, saying, "Oh, we should have a choice about having abortions and all of this," I just constantly wanted to say, "Use a condom, use a condom, like it." I feel like it's a comeback to anything they say. They could say, uh, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know, there was this black woman talking to a crowd and she was saying how, how tough it is for these women if they have to look after the baby. Look, use a condom. Boom. Problem solved. Anything she says, anything pro-abortion, use a condom. Unless, like I said, there's rape involved. Just to cover a couple of other things, though. Other things the religious people say are stupid, like they're against contraception. I think people should be free. I'm pro sex. I'm pro abstinence as well. Whatever floats your boat. I'm pro using condoms. Pro. I don't know about the morning after pill. I think I'm fine. Use it. I don't. I'm not big on drugs, and I don't know the details of how it works. But I think if you're sort of killing or preventing the egg or whatever it is from developing on the day or the next day, I think that's probably okay. It's still not ideal. I think a condom's better, but whatever. Um, so yeah, and the whole philosophy of like don't have sex until you get married, I think that's completely stupid. Like it's like buying a car without driving it is the best analogy I can think of. Like it might look really good and the person's really good at selling it and but you commit to buying it and then it just falls apart as you drive home or it's just really clunky, it's really slow or really noisy. You got to know marriage is a big step and it's really important to know the person really well in lots of different ways before you commit to that. That's another analogy that I just remembered that I thought of is when you use eBay, right? For eBay, there's a very clear point. If I'm looking at things and I can add it to my cart if I want, I can watch it, put it on a watch list. But as soon as I click on buy, and then there'll be a certain point where it'll say commit to buy. I do it through PayPal. I don't know if that matters. But when I click that commit to buy button, that's the point in time where you're like, that's it. You bought this thing, you're paying, and you're receiving it. I feel like that's the same with if you have unprotected sex, in particular if you're a woman. I mean, this is not, I don't really see this as a women's issue, but I guess it's women's bodies that get pregnant. So it's their responsibility to be careful about what goes in there. Men should have responsibility as well in terms of not getting a woman pregnant if you're not But that's the thing. As soon as you do that, as soon as there's conception, you've committed to having a baby. And just because it's inconvenient to your life, I don't think that gives you the right to then go out of your way. I mean, if abortion was easy, that would be different. Abortion, you have to go to a doctor. They have to go through a process because you really are squashing a life. You're stopping it from it going on its natural where it's heading. So it really annoys me that they want all this choice, but there's no responsibility put in terms of that instance where you could have used a condom, you could have been careful and used the pill. And there's a reason there's a stigma, I think, around young girls getting pregnant because it's a big issue. You end up with a baby and then you're not ready for it or you're not in a stable relationship. That's a big problem. And I think the stigma should go with the boy as well, but it's the girl's body. She needs to take responsibility, and it's easier for her to control what goes in it. Because a guy might be told, the girl might lie and say, "Oh, I'm on the pill," and then she changes her mind. Like I don't know. Um, and I think it makes sense. There's a stigma around abortion as well. It's a fetus. Once you see some of the images, I found it highly disturbing. That really was messed up for me. I think it just seems so clearly morally wrong. Um, but anyway, one guy in the show, in the movie documentary, did bring up an interesting point, which is to really break down why is it morally wrong to kill someone. You can point to the Bible or the Ten Commandments. That's not really relevant. You can point to the law. It's illegal. I think there's a both, like I said before, they're kind of analogous. Poor reasons for why something is okay or not okay. Um, but yeah, let's break it down just a little bit. I think part of it would be a person's capable of loving other people. People will miss them. People have built up memories around them and knowing them. They're able to communicate. They want to live. They're conscious. They feel it. And then it's interesting to try to compare that to the little tiny baby. Now, the thing is, that baby at that point in time hasn't really built up memories. It might not be conscious, depending on when it happens. I'm skeptical about measuring that, though. How do you measure it? You know? And the problem is, okay, a baby might not be the same as a regular human being. It might not seem as bad to kill that tiny little baby that's only developed for a handful of weeks or however long. But if you compare them to like a disabled person or say a baby, a live baby, is not capable, it hasn't built up lots of memories, may not be conscious. I mean, this is the thing. Like, what if you went to someone while they're sleeping and shot them in the head? You know, is that okay? They didn't feel it. Is that okay? It doesn't make it okay just because they don't feel it. That's number one. Um, and just by the way, a couple of the most disturbing things I've ever seen were not. I won't go in heaps of detail, but seeing a baby boy circumcised on Penn and Teller's bullshit, that was like the screams are terrifying. I'm like 31 now, or I think I was 31 when I saw it. It's too much. It's disturbing. It's horrific. Uh, I think any mother that wants their or mother or father who wants their baby boy circumcised needs to be there to watch it, so that it can haunt them for the rest of their life. Um, the other one was in this documentary Speciesism, where they had a piglet, and they did something to its private parts. No anesthetic, and it's just squealing like crazy. It's again highly disturbing. It makes me feel sick, like really really awful. But why I'm bringing those up is because they're kind of morally a little tricky. Like I mean, the baby can't put in words why it's bad. Neither can the piglet. The piglet might not be particularly missed. That's the thing. You could kidnap someone and take them away for years until they're presumed dead, and then, and then later kill them. It's like, it's still bad to kill them, I think, even if at that point, they've been forgotten or people have moved on. You got to be careful. I don't know how you can justify killing a tiny little infant that's developing, especially if you consider the potential it has, the capacity for love, for living, for having friends and family, um, for making a difference in the world, for being the next Beethoven or Einstein or whatever. You can pick a female figure if you want to be like all fair to different kinds of people. Just another point is like, where do you draw the line for people that are pro-abortion or however you word it? Because it's tricky. Because it's some people will say, well, that's pro-death. You know, there's pro-life and there's pro-death. Everyone wants to make their side sound nice, and this is why you got to be really smart and not listen to just the words, the emotional manipulation that goes on. For example, there's a thing called partial birth abortion, which is this highly disturbing practice I've heard of. I don't know exactly why they do it, but in some cases they'll have like part of the leg of the baby will be outside the body or something. They'll go in, they'll like suck the brain out of the baby's head and basically kill the baby, but because the baby's partially in the body, they call it an abortion. Other people call it a late-term abortion. Late-term abortion sounds a lot nicer than partial birth abortion, I think. I mean, they both sound bad to me. But it's just a case of, yeah, switching the words around to make it sound nicer. Or instead of unborn baby, calling it a fetus or an embryo or a cluster of cells. I mean, I'm a cluster of cells, a huge cluster of cells. That doesn't mean it's okay to hurt an adult living being. There's other interesting moral questions. I actually think it's a really good exercise. A lot of people with abortion, I don't think they realize in their mind, most people I think either feel abortion is clearly okay or they think it's clearly bad. And that tends to factor into a lot of their opinions, and I don't think they're aware of it. So for example, like I said, with these abortion clinics, you've got these people, some of the religious zealots that go out of their way and conduct acts of violence, which I think, you know, is going too far. But I can understand the anger that you would feel. I mean, imagine if there's the Holocaust, how many Jews are being killed efficiently, and everyone's in on it. Or a lot of the Nazis are fine with it. I don't know the details. Maybe there's a lot of, if you don't do the right thing, you'll get shot. So maybe there's pressure to do it, but it's still it was legal with, what they were doing within their system of whatever the Nazi regime. So if you went and bombed or murdered some Nazi officials to try to prevent them, and you were speaking out against the concentration camps, like, would that be morally wrong? It just becomes tricky. Can a person be justified in murdering a physician if they seriously think they're doing something that's really morally wrong? And the problem is some people aren't even, I think, questioning that. They're just taking it for granted that violence is bad. But they're doing it because they believe abortion is bad, and abortion's an act of violence itself. You're missing that connection, I think, some people. It's also funny when just some of them say they can't imagine that kind of thing. It's very easy. If you imagine things, I don't want to, your family getting hurt or people you care about being hurt, or even just 9/11, think of that and think if you've got the chance to, you press a button and it's going to send a missile to kill the people responsible. Now, it may kill some civilians as well, but it will kill the people responsible. And it's interesting, like, if you got people to have that chance on the day, 12 o'clock, just a few hours after it happened, I think 99% of people would say press the button. So what if, like, you don't want to kill civilians, but those people have to pay? Just that fury. I don't think it's hard to relate to. I think everyone can relate to it. And that's what people feel when they feel that way about these abortions going on. Or even another analogy, the way some animals are treated in some farms. Again, I'm not justifying it. I don't think it is the right way to go about it. But the anger or the feeling of this is immoral, I understand. So yeah, I'll try to do a quick summary. So for me, it's as soon as there's conception, that's where we draw the line. You've clicked the commit to buy button on eBay, you've clicked the commit to have a baby button in terms of your body. And unless a woman is raped, I don't think it's right to have an abortion. Actually, another thing that I've seen is they'll argue, but look at, okay, take all the, let's say abortion was illegal. What about all those kids that grow up and they're not loved, or they don't have a proper family, or they end up poor or homeless? Are you going to take them into your house? Are you going to, again, there's all this emotional, things associated with it. You've got to be careful about that logic, because that logic would suggest that then by that logic we should kill all the poor people. Anyone who's suffering, it would be a good idea to go to hospitals and kill all the people there. Kill all the poor people. I'm not saying this. This is the logic they're using, because then there'll be less suffering in the world. You know, just because some of those babies may end up in tough lives does not justify killing it. That's the logic they're using. It's not sound logic. The other one that I've heard is some of these women, you know, they'll go on to get a law degree and they'll do all these great things and they just feel so relieved that they were able to get that abortion. Again, use a condom is my big comeback. Um, I feel like I should just add use a condom in flashing lights just throughout this whole video. Like, it just solves the whole problem. I don't understand. But yeah, they'll use this kind of as justification for having gotten an abortion. Look how much better it made the woman's life. You know, how much she'd be struggling by comparison. And again, the logic is not quite sound. If I'm going for a job and there's one other person who's a bit better than me, imagine how much better my life is going to be if I could just kill this person. I'm just going to shoot him in the head in his sleep. He didn't feel anything. You know, I'm going to make it look like an accident so that no one suspects me. I'm not going to do this way. I feel like I keep having to explain. It's just making it up. Be very awkward if like someone who's like known to be my enemy happens to pass away now, and I'll be like, oh no, I uploaded this video. You know, make it look like a perfect accident, and no one suspects anything, and it's sad, but how much better my life would be. Therefore, it's morally right for me to do that. It doesn't make sense. Just imagine how many people you could kill, how many scenarios. Or, you know, a mother's got 2 babies that are alive, and decides to kill them, or to just, you know, again, makes it look like an accident, so we're not, you know, it's not too grotesque for people. Like, no, and if no one finds out, then it's okay, right? Again, that is the logic that I am hearing. The way I see it is, as soon as you get pregnant, that's it. You're committed, unless you were raped. And by the way, all this, my point of view, has nothing to do with religion. I don't really have any respect for religion. I'm pretty sure I'd be antitheist or anti-theist in addition to being atheist. So yeah, you cannot argue, oh, well, they're just religious zealots. That's not a reason to dismiss the pro-life side. And similarly, I do not think it is the right thing to do to kill physicians. It's not, or any act of violence. I mean, that was horrific. It's just, and also just what is, I can't think of anything more low in general than human beings walking around chanting like 2, 4, 6, 8, whatever, with stupid signs and the manipulation we use and la 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 la, like it's juvenile. It's the very worst aspects of childhood, but childish behavior in adults on serious or reasonably serious issues. Actually, that reminds me, another woman was saying how, you know, in all of her years of experience meeting lots of women that got abortions, she said, you know, none of them are really casual. Like, some of them might be a bit more relaxed, but when it comes to doing the operation, they all take it very seriously. It's not a light decision for them. And she seemed to be implying that, you know, therefore they're doing it for a good reason. And it's, you know, when people murder people, I'm sure they take it pretty seriously. When people commit suicide, I don't think that's a casual affair. The fact that it's serious does not mean it's morally good or okay. It just, again, the logic, I'm happy to be proven wrong, but the logic does not hold up. And again, this whole thing of where do we draw the line? Like, when does the baby become... It's like, as soon as you've conceived, there's this very clear line. Use a condom. Use a condom. And if someone is raped, hold the rapist responsible, and then an abortion is fine, because I can understand it would be an awful thing to go through. If it can be done safely, and it's the woman's choice. I can't remember if I mentioned this, but this idea of, like a slippery slope. You know, if you don't draw a line, if you decide abortions are okay, how late can the abortions get? And, you know, what if it keeps getting later? And, you know, is it really just all about the mother's body? I mean, that's why that late-term abortion thing is so disturbing. I mean, they do it for that's what drove me nuts, is they do it for legal reasons. If the baby came out of the body, then clearly it's illegal and awful to kill this baby. That's infanticide. Obviously, if there's medical... I mean, that's the other thing with abortion. Okay, if the baby is actually threatening the mother's life, or there's other complications, other illnesses and issues involved, I can see abortion might be necessary as a medical, but it's a medical thing. It's not just I don't feel like having a baby, or I really don't feel like having a baby. It's just I'm not, you got pregnant. Like, take some responsibility. I don't understand that. Um, but yeah, I do worry about it getting later and later, and then having technicalities like, if that's the other thing. If I put a frog in my mouth, it doesn't mean it's part of my body. It's just inside my body. The baby is not part of your body. It is a separate body. It's inside your body. It may be connected, by a whatever the tube, umbilical cord or whatever. But that doesn't mean you have the right to kill it. That's how I feel. And yeah, I struggle to see any justification for really any abortions. It really is just different. Again, I can see in some cases it may be the lesser of two evils at a certain point if it could be done early, but I just don't see moral justification. And the other thing is, yeah, with this slippery slope, if you start making it legal and making it not taboo and women are encouraged to get abortions, then there's the natural tendency that women will be less careful about having using condoms and using protection, and teenage girls, there'll be less stigma around unprotected sex and you just get an abortion. I think that's a bad direction to go. We need to have a clear cutoff point, and I think there's a very logical one, which is when you get pregnant, that's it, you've committed to having a baby. It's not your right to kill the baby that's developing inside of you because you were too stupid to use a condom. Anyway, alright, whatever. I'll leave it there. Bye.